Iran has implemented specific plans and tactics to safeguard its sensitive facilities against potential American incursions led by U.S. Special Forces. This information became evident from a publication by the Institute for Science and International Security. This institute is led by David Albright, who is one of the foremost specialists in nuclear developments worldwide. The particular site or perhaps this institute that previously disclosed these specific details from recently updated satellite images pertaining to one of the most crucial tactics that somewhat activate passive defense for the Iranian side. This particular situation had been developing by Iran concerning the Isfahan nuclear facility, which the United States had focused its efforts on striking along with the Fordo and Natanz facilities on the very last day of the 12-day war. This specific facility is located to the southeast of Isfahan. If we turn to it, it's one of the facilities Israel continuously struck throughout the 12-day war. Specifically, this this area Israel focused on hitting before the US came to deliver the biggest blow. Notice how Israel has inflicted significant damage on this facility, which is considered very important if Iran decides to pursue a nuclear bomb. The role of this facility and these buildings, which we see destroyed by Israel and even the United States, will be crucial in the direct process of activating the issue of ultimately acquiring a nuclear bomb. The uranium conversion process is underway here, and naturally the developments are evident based on satellite imagery. What Iran has done involves several actions concerning the various entrances. There are 3 entrances. This is the southern entrance, and observe that this central entrance actually comprises 2 additional entry points. Here we can clearly see changes in the most recently updated satellite images. And you will also notice that this particular one is the northern entrance. If we observe this image from a distant, from this particular angle here, it's the exact angle that aligns with what was published by the Institute for Science and International Security, which had indicated that these 3 entrances we see have been completely filled in, entirely sealed off. Consequently, they have become closed access points within this sensitive and highly interesting facility. If we were to proceed to the southern entrance, then to the central area, then to the northern part, we have now approached the southern entrance. You will indeed see that this entrance has been completely sealed off by Iranian foreign elements over the past few days, according to the latest updates from satellite imagery. You will also notice that this is the central entrance, which was originally comprised of 2 separate entry points. Now observe this clearer image taken from a different angle of this very same entrance. You will observe that everything has been sealed off, and these entrances have been completely buried. Furthermore, the northern entrance, we can see it has been entirely filled in and sealed shut. Consequently, this image from a different perspective and angle clearly demonstrates that there is absolutely no possibility of accessing this facility any longer, especially after these specific entrances were sealed. This facility is quite striking primarily because Iran has previously made attempts to develop yet another nuclear installation. These are the foundational infrastructures for this specific facility. However, up to this very moment, Iran has not been able to advance significantly, largely because the military situation has evolved quite dangerously against the Iranian side, and there are several compelling reasons that are pushing Iran to pursue this particular matter. First, we should denote that this mountain we see here is heavily fortified, even more than the Fordo facility. There are no weaknesses or ventilation points, at least none visible from satellite images. Therefore, they closed these gates to achieve several goals for Iran. Firstly, this reveals that Iran may have transferred a number of devices related to uranium enrichment or imported nuclear equipment, or even some highly enriched uranium which was said to be under the rubble. But Iran has also previously stated that it transferred some of this uranium to unknown areas. These areas might be some of the equipment. Important figures may have been relocated to this specific mountain, especially nuclear equipment when we discuss it. This will therefore provide significant protection for this equipment. Then the closure of these access points will significantly help in reducing the severity of any potential strike coming from the United States of America, just as it did with the Fordo facility when it was struck at that time. Therefore, due to the immense pressure with these entrances somewhat closed, Iran will at least be able to preserve its uranium. If there happens to be uranium or some other pieces of critical equipment, and as a result they end up buried deep beneath the rubble, this is exactly what will ultimately serve to send a very clear message to the United States. If you fail to reach a mutual understanding with us and there is no formal agreement, then this highly enriched uranium or the regular uranium or any of the other equipment will stay buried under the rubble, even if you are actually able to successfully strike this entire region. Furthermore, the closing of these specific entrances is what opens the door to a direct confrontation with special forces. This means American elite units or even the Israeli commandos themselves. Because there are potential scenarios that Israel has already carried out before in Syria, and it is quite possible that they carried them out during the 12-day war, as is widely believed to have happened at the Fordow facility. There could be several strikes around this facility to hit defensive points and other strategic targets in order to effectively isolate the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps from the area. The Iranian special forces are specifically trained and dedicated to safeguarding this particular facility. And then, for example, if American forces were to conduct landings and attempt to intervene, trying to gain entry into this very facility, consequently, should they even try to breach these specific access points, it would be absolutely impossible to penetrate this facility at all, because by closing off these access points, Iran continues to fortify its position and is preparing for a potential landing scenario that could be initiated by any party. Consequently, Iran started to analyze all possible scenarios it could encounter. The New York Times, at the close of last month, had essentially reported on the matter of an American intervention. As we observed on January 29th, this represents a crucial issue that could potentially impact nuclear installations. It might also affect missile facilities, aiming to dismantle all of them, and could additionally target the scenario of Iranian leaders or officials involved in the killing of protesters. All these are scenarios that Iran is taking into consideration, especially given that its air defense systems have been severely impacted over the last 2 years, and it no longer possesses the substantial ability to adequately protect its own airspace. Essentially, there have been warnings mentioned by an official within the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. This matter was reported by Iran International. Warnings from the United States regarding the upcoming round of talks between Iran and the US. It was stated that the United States has warned Iran that it could face military action if Tehran fails to accept 4 crucial conditions prior to the resumption of diplomatic discussions. What exactly are these conditions? They are primarily linked to the nuclear issue, specifically the dismantling of nuclear facilities, halting uranium enrichment, and transferring the enriched uranium to another party, specifically a third party. For example, it could be Russia. It also appears that the 4th condition is linked to the Iranian regime's commitment not to target its protesters, in addition to the Iranian missile program and not supporting their militias in the region. As of this moment, Iran is not engaging on the Iranian missile program issue. Iran has made no statements concerning its militias or their ongoing support. Furthermore, it has offered no assurances whatsoever regarding the recent demonstrations. Instead, it has characterized these protests as mere acts of rioting and has frequently gone so far as to label the demonstrators as terrorists, and there remains a significant problem concerning the nuclear issue. Specifically regarding the issue of sending enriched uranium to another country. Who is objecting? A number of Iranian officials. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, for example, the Secretary of Iran's Defense Council, as well as the most important person in the Iranian nuclear issue, namely the head of the Atomic Energy Organization of Iran, Mohammad Eslami, who stated that transferring uranium out of the country is not on the agenda. He means the agenda of the negotiations taking place in Muscat. في نهاية المجلس Iranian Foreign Minister Hadi al-Farasri has now gone to meet with Iranian military commanders. In this way, he appeared alongside the commander of the Iranian army to make and issue hostile statements against the United States of America, demonstrating their defensive and even offensive readiness, and that they are capable of carrying out attacks that no one could possibly anticipate. It's also possible that the capabilities not previously used by the Iranian side could be brought into play. Ali Larijani, the Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, has just arrived in Muscat. This is the moment of his arrival in Muscat, ahead of the next round of negotiations between Iran and the United States of America. His presence lasted for 3 hours. It was a 3-hour meeting with the Omani side, and after that, there was no news regarding the specific nature of this particular meeting. However, in Natoisha, the issue of negotiations, it appears, no longer buys time for the Iranian side, as the Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan yesterday in a very interesting interview had discussed the behind-the-scenes events leading up to the 12-day war and stated that Marco Rubio, the American Secretary of State, he called him and told him that he must contact the Iranian side and inform them that they should expect everything in the coming hours. And after that, he actually called Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi. And listen to what he said to him. He said, I immediately called my Iranian counterpart and informed him of what was happening. So Araghchi replied, how is this even possible? We have a scheduled meeting with them in Oman this Sunday, and therefore before the next round, there might be a strike from the United States. In light of all the information and data that we are discussing, especially given that the United States of America is still mobilizing its forces towards the Middle East region. Today, the sight of aircraft belonging to the United States of America, specifically military aircraft for military cargo, aerial refueling, and other purposes, has appeared in this form. And these are the special recordings of these aircraft, as we can observe here. Furthermore, there have been reports indicating that 6 American F-35 stealth fighter jets flew from the state of Maine to head directly to Britain. It is believed that the second stop will be the Middle East region, with a rotation and a significant change in the nature of the aircraft. And of course, there's an interesting movement regarding what is currently unfolding towards Iran. There are also movements from Russia, not military ones, but from Rosatom, a company specializing in the construction and maintenance of nuclear facilities. A private plane suddenly appeared from Moscow to Bushehr, and it is believed that Russia has begun evacuating its Rosatom staff from this region. Especially the same company had previously mentioned around last week or by the close of last month that it might evacuate its personnel working in Bushehr. This serves as another clear indication that we could be confronting impending military conditions. Furthermore, warnings have begun to reach the Russian side, signaling that we are drawing closer to a military operation. You'll even notice that the United States is deploying its PTI site with a Poseidon aircraft alongside Emirati reconnaissance planes. It's quite rare to witness such aircraft appearing, flying, and actively gathering intelligence over this specific region, particularly the Strait of Hormuz, where tensions and situations could escalate with extreme rapidity, and essentially the party involved. The United States of America had issued a statement yesterday. It issued a warning through which all vessels carrying the American flag were told not to pass through the Strait of Hormuz after an attack occurred last week by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps on one of the tankers that was flying the American flag. Additionally, the removal of American ships from this entire area could be another clear indicator and further proof that the military situation might escalate very quickly over the course of the next few days. Furthermore, the United States Central Command has recently showcased its aerial refueling operations throughout the Middle East region. The United States Air Force demonstrated the refueling process from a KC-135 Stratotanker aircraft, of course, that is correct, to an F-60 fighter jet, as we are observing right here, and you can clearly see the details from this refueling operation. And from the position of this aircraft, through which we will observe some markings on the ground, such as this particular mark, and here are some extremely important marks that will ultimately indicate the refueling operation for this aircraft. If we pinpoint this specific location and make use of the image displayed before us, then the aircraft is flying in Iraq, specifically over Anbar. Precisely here in this specific section, you will indeed notice that we are facing the very same markings present on the ground for this aircraft, and this confirms to you that the plane was moving in this direction, taking on fuel from American refueling aircraft. This matter is of course quite natural and routine, combating ISIS and other groups and these ongoing efforts. However, today we are confronted with new circumstances, of course, in this region. And if this reveals anything at all regarding the specific nature of the various weapons that this aircraft is currently carrying, then you can clearly observe that the United States appears to be preparing to fly through the Iraqi airspace in anticipation of a potential confrontation with unmanned drones, because these particular missiles are air-to-air missiles, and so based on the nature of what has been shown quite clearly, it is evident that they are making extensive preparations to intercept and counter those drones effectively within the region. Typically, Iran starts by sending swarms of unmanned drones to wear down and exhaust air defense systems and nearby fighter jets. Then it follows with volleys of ballistic missiles, after which the campaign escalates further and it begins launching hypersonic missiles aiming to penetrate defenses and get as close to Israeli territory as possible. But Iran is talking about the possibility of striking the entire region, and therefore the targets could be much closer than Israel, given these dangerous circumstances. Furthermore, in Iran, even with all these intense mobilization efforts currently underway, there are loud and vocal protests reverberating from behind the doors and windows, just as we are able to hear them clearly at this very moment. There are numerous calls and cries from the protesters, both from the streets outside and from inside their residences, all of which contain strong and unequivocal condemnation of the Supreme Leader. They say that this is the final year for the Supreme Leader and the Iranian regime. Therefore, there is anticipation of an American strike. This could open the door for these demonstrators to exploit this strike. At the same time, the Iranian side, with its defensive preparations, such as the closed-door tactic we discussed regarding the Isfahan facility, there's also a military shipment for Iran from Boeing 747 aircraft that appeared to leave Tehran for an unknown destination in China. A great number of these flights are taking place these days almost on a daily basis, or every 2 days, or even every other day. These planes fly towards China, and then they come from China to Tehran, and then they turn off their tracking devices. And these are the official recordings that clearly show beyond any doubt that this journey took place yesterday, operated by Boeing 747 aircraft. The very same model of Iranian cargo planes was also visually recorded, this time originating in Moscow and heading to Tehran. The matter happened yesterday, and as we can see in the footage, it concerns that same Iranian cargo aircraft. Consequently, Iran is also shipping weapons, trying to take advantage by strengthening its defenses as much as it can, or even bolstering its capabilities in the face of the potential cyber warfare in which the United States will be participating directly and on a massive scale. This implies that it is possible for things to become significantly harder for Iran than they were during the 12-day war, or even regarding the readiness of Iranian internal forces and security personnel when confronting a potential escalation of demonstrations against the current Iranian regime.